Oh, man. Oh, I'm really digging that in the bottom range there, the blue keys. Hi, I'm Rayburn Johnson from Sample Library Review, and today we'll be checking out Vento Modern Woodwinds by Heavyocity. Like its string and brass predecessors, Novo and Forzo, Vento is Heavyocity's answer to traditional orchestral instruments. There are two styles of woodwind instruments on offer: traditional woodwind instruments and articulations, and evolved instruments, including a woodwind designer instrument for creating textures, pads, and more, and a loop designer with plenty of epic-sounding woodwind and woodwind-inspired loops. Vento Modern Woodwinds downloads as 18.5 gigabytes, includes over 11,000 samples derived from woodwind instruments, comes with 163 articulations, 110 snapshot presets, and 432 tempo sync loops. Vento requires native instruments contact 6.1 or above and retails for $449 from Heavyocity. At time of review, Vento is on offer for $100 off at $349, and for Forzo or Novo owners, you can get an additional $50 off with a Vento coupon delivered to you from Heavyocity. So as with the other Heavyocity libraries in the orchestral series, including Forzo and Novo, the real emphasis on these libraries is their sound design capabilities. You of course get the traditional instruments, you get traditional strings with Novo, traditional brass with Forzo, and here in Vento Modern Woodwinds, you do get traditional woodwind instruments. But the first place most of us are going to go, if we're honest, is into the sound design engine, because we really want to see what the sound design capabilities in this library are. So today I'm really going to run through the presets, just going to give you a sampling of some different presets. Vento comes in three different categories. There's the traditional instruments, the woodwind designer, which is really focused on creating pads and ambient textures and rhythms. And then we're also going to look at, lastly, the loop designer, which is Heavyocity's, where they've taken the woodwind instruments and they've turned them into different performance loops that you can actually use in your tracks. So we're going to go ahead and start with the woodwind designer and just run through some presets. One thing I would encourage you to do, if you've not already, is go on the Heavyocity website or even on YouTube and look at the cycle engine, which is what Vento runs on. So this is the same engine that Forzo and Novo uses, and I tell you, this engine is very, very powerful. There's so many things you can do with it. Highly encourage you to check it out. You can automate all sorts of things from envelopes and filters and gates, and there's complicated sequencers that do, or I should say complex sequencers that do all sorts of cool things with all sorts of effects. So definitely go check that out. But today, let's go ahead and run through some of the presets. So we can see that this is actually divided into several different sections. We've got organic textures, ambient textures, effects, rhythmic textures, and loop combos. So let's go ahead and start with, I'm not going to focus on the organic textures so much because we'll get into some of the sound design things quicker, but let's go ahead and go through maybe two or three of these. A calming wind. Into the wilderness. Let's try that. Okay, I've talked myself into it. I'm going to go through a few more of these organic ones. I'm liking these a lot. I expected these to be more vanilla, but gosh, they're really surprising me. Opening credits. One thing you'll notice about the instrument right off the bat, just like with Forzo and Novo, Heavyocity split up the keyboard into multiple sections. So we've got a green, a dark blue, a light blue, and an orange. And in each of those, we have a different texture or a different rhythm, a different articulation altogether. So it really becomes a really complex patch within a single, or I should say a complex instrument within a single patch. So you can see here, we have one texture. We'll go way up here. We have those whole trills. Very neat. All right, let's look at maybe one more of these. Singing Woods. Beautiful. I'm liking those a lot. I honestly didn't expect to love the organic textures. I kind of thought they were going to be pretty plain Jane, but I'm liking those. All right, let's move on to the ambient sounds. Let's try Enchanted Forest. I mean, these are just really, really nice. Fluttering By. Lingering Waves. You know, I love how this center wheel evolves, and that's just such a cool graphic. Really, really like that. Let's see, Minor Expanse. I have a feeling we're in for something minor here. Ooh. Oh, I love that. Oh man, that's cool. I just love how the texture just evolves. I mean, you can see it obviously automating the EQ and the filter here. It's just such a cool thing. I mean, it really works for underscore especially because you can essentially just press a chord or press some notes and hold your pedal down and you have this evolving texture, this evolving sound bed you can build an entire track on. Let's look at Wash Over You. Oh, listen to that ring out. Ooh, that's got a tail on it. All right, let's try one more of these. Worlds Away. Let's give that a whirl. No pun intended. Let's move on to the effects and textures. Let's try Bending Sanity. Very nice. Cognitive Dissonance. That just screams mystery. These are really, really helpful textures, these effects, to just add something really, to add a lot of spice to your track, especially if you're trying to set a particular mood like mystery or horror. And speaking of horror, let's try Hair Raising. Yeah, it's definitely hair raising, all right. Hitchcockian. I'd encourage you to watch the automation as I'm playing this. You can see, I mean, this is the thing about this cycle engine. You can just do all sorts of cool stuff, but the automation on this is just so cool. And the visual really helps you see it in action. Yeah, that's so cool. All right, moving along. Let's go to Hypnotic Horror. That sounds ominous. Well, you can definitely set the mood with that. Rooftop Chase. Oh, man. Oh, I'm really digging that in the bottom range there, the blue keys. Oh, that percussive loop, that is so cool. Oops. All right, let's try Spinning Heads. Even my voice is sounding ominous now. Oh, now look at the animation on this one. Whoa, that thing's going crazy in the center. tell you what would make your head spin is watching that a while. Let's see. Let's do one more of these. How about War Pigs? Ooh. I mean, you can just imagine these textures with a piano over top or some sort of instrument over top. You could just do some really, really cool stuff with that. All right, let's jump down to the rhythmic section. And the rhythmic sections in the the designers in these Heavyocity instruments are usually among my favorite patches. They're just so great for building a sound bed that you can build an entire track on at times, or really use for underscore. Just really cool stuff. Let's go to bending sixteenths. Yeah, that's really cool. I like that a lot. Very unusual. Very cool. Burnt Geiger. That's cool. Bet you never thought you'd hear woodwinds like that, huh? Counting the moments. I just love that. Man, I love that. It's fantastic. Mobilization. I mean, that is so useful. Gosh, could really build some tracks on these. Loving these rhythm sounds. Awesome. Ooh, let's try an ARP. Seismic Encounter. Oh yeah, love. Now, one thing you'll notice is that in the blue, I've got an ARP going, but then in the green, no ARP, which is really cool. That means you can play all sorts of things down here, so you can have something going on completely different in your left hand than your right hand. All right, let's jump down. Let's do one more. Steve Winwood running. For those of you who didn't grow up in the 80s, you might not recall Steve Winwood's the guy. I think he wrote Higher Love, or he sang Higher Love. Anyway, it really makes you wonder how you get Steve Winwood into a sound. Oh, and of course his name, it just hit me, Windwood. Oh, that's perfect for a woodwind library. unusual sound. All right, let's jump down to the loop combos. Now we see we have straight loops and triplets. And in the straight loops, well, actually the triplets, I think you have the exact same thing, it looks like. So the straight loops, we have ambient combos, motif combos, rhythmic combos, and then we have rhythmic low, mid, and high combos, the pedal. So let's just try a few of each of these, maybe 2 of each. Let's try the ambient combo 1 to start with. Yeah, and you can see again, split up by the keys, you have different combos going on. Actually, let's just go ahead and hit the next button and we'll see what the next one is. That's one thing. I'm noticing that in the library, on a lot of these, especially on some of the loops and things, you probably have to be careful about playing in triads. Many of them you'll either want to play just the 1 or maybe the 1 and the 5, but sometimes you can get some really discordant or dissonant sounds if you do a triad, so you just kind of have to experiment. In this one, I'm just going to go with the 1 and see what happens. Let's go ahead and add the 5 and see what happens. Right. Let's go ahead and, let's go to the straight, if I can get there. Let's go to the motifs. Yeah, so there's an example where you just really want to do probably the 1. And you can tell why you just want to do the 1 because there's a whole sequence going on in these. I mean, that you can build a whole track on that. Of course, you want to be very careful about doing so because obviously I don't think you want to build an entire track of just loops from Vento. But I tell you, when you use these correctly, I know from Forzo and Novo, I've layered some of those loops within my tracks, and they really add texture and life and depth to your track. And you can especially put them in the background to help support either your brass or your strings to really bring them out. So I think the loops here will definitely serve that same purpose. And I, for one, will probably be digging in and adding these to my tracks. There's just really a cool life in these. And you'll notice that these differ. If you've used Forzo and Novo, you'll notice that these loops differ from the performance loops you might be used to that we'll look at in a moment when we get to the loop designer. The performance loops use key switches and then have different loops assigned to every key. But in these instances, with these kinds of loops in the Woodwind designer, you'll see that there's only 1 loop per key range. So there's 1 loop for green, 1 loop for blue, 1 loop for orange. And then each of those are tuned to the key. So you have like 2 octaves, 2 or more octaves in each of these, and they all play the same loop within that color range. So you can see, yeah, just a lot of flexibility there. So let's jump down to the rhythmic combos. Yeah, these are nice. Let's go down to one more rhythmic combo. Yeah, I mean, those are so useful. Gosh, those are so useful. I mean, talk about building a track quickly. All right, let's try one each of the rhythmic pedal low, mid, and high. So I'm just going to pick a random one. All right, let's put a few together. All right, let's go to a mid. And let's try a high. And again, in these loops, you have both the straight versions and the triplets. I'm not going to go through as many triplets. Let's just do a couple, though, just so you can get a feel for them. But that really extends the usefulness and flexibility of these loops. Oh, that's cool. I like that. You know, and I'm noticing that a lot of these loops, or at least the ones I'm trying, and granted, I'm only scratching the surface, but I'm noticing that a lot of these are very minor sounding, which is right up my alley. I don't know if that fits your mood, but that definitely fits the style of music I like to write. You know, I think I accidentally went to the straight one on that one. Let me go to the triplet again. Sorry about that. All right, so that is the Woodwind Designer. Again, let me encourage you, go and check out something on the Cycle engine. Go to Heavyocity's website. You can look at Forzo or Novo. You could just definitely check out the Cycle engine because there's so much under the hood here that I am not even touching, from effects and filters and EQs, and all of that can be automated, especially via this center wheel. I mean, this is honestly one of the most powerful contact engines I'm aware of. So let's go ahead and move over to the Loop Designer. And you say, Ray, there's more loops? Yes, there are. There are a ton of loops. You see, you've got straights, straight reverse, triplet, triplet reverse, and performance. And I really want to dig into the performance loops because that's where you'll really notice a difference with the Loop Designer. So let's go. I'm just going to jump on the performance loop 2. Now you'll notice in these red keys, with all of the Vento, Forzo, and Novo libraries, the red keys represent your key switches, and then you have these green keys, blue keys, and orange keys, which all represent a different kind of loop. You might have a very sound designy loop, and then you might have a mid-range woodwind, low woodwind, and high woodwind loop. But the difference is every single one of these represents a completely different loop. And then the purple keys are very unique because pushing down a single purple key will then activate one green, one blue, and one orange loop simultaneously that really end up going together. So let's go and find a purple key, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And again, each of these is its own individual loop. So if I go down to the next key, totally different. Yeah, really cool. These are so useful. And again, same thing here. Each one of these completely different. And if you get into the engine, just like with Novo and Forzo, you can select all, you can change these up. So you can make, the greens one thing, the blues another. I mean, all of that's controllable. Very, very, very cool. All right, so let's go to some of the straight loops. So here you'll see that again, you have all lows and the same thing applies. So now I'm triggering 3 different loops, 3 different low loops at the same time, and they're key switch, so I can change the key. And again, all of these are different. All right, let's go to the mid. And if I don't want to use the purple keys, I can actually just do my own combination. Well, let's just layer this and see what we get. you go. There's you a ton of woodwinds all at once. And of course, we've already looked at some of these in the Woodwind Designer, the ambient, the motif, the rhythmic. Let's go to the reverse loops, though. Let's try out some of these. Let's go to the mids. Yeah, you can hear there's just so many possibilities. And again, you have triplets. So we'll just try one of these really quickly. I mean, again, imagine layering some strings on top of that, some piano, some percussion. It just makes a really great ambient bed. Great stuff. All right, so that's a super quick look at the Loop Designer. Just a lot to dig into right there. But lastly, let's go to what's actually first in the library, and that's the traditional woodwind instruments. So in the traditional folder, we have clarinets, we have flutes, we have high ensemble, low ensemble, and contrabass ensemble. So let's just take a quick look at each of these. We'll open up the clarinets. And you can see the way that Heavyocity sets up the articulation system is on the side here and on the right side over here, you have 4 slots on each side that allow you to set up articulations. And these are configurable. They come by default with 5 articulations loaded, but as you can see when you hit the drop-down menu, there are a ton more. So you have the, in this case, 5 core articulations, which are what come loaded by default, but then you have extended articulations, rips, and atonal effects. So I'm going to go ahead and load a few of the extended things here. And we'll try some of these out. So let's hear just kind of what these sound like from the get-go. Of course, we have the mics too, so, we could solo the close mics. And you'll notice the round robin, you can set that to be as many as 6 round robins. And you'll see here, it actually shows you which one of the round robins is playing at that time. So you can see it changing just randomly to ensure you don't get that machine gun effect. Very, very cool. So let's go to Portato. And let's try the triple P sustains. And let's try some of these extended articulations. So staccato waves. And maybe some subtle pulses. Random staccato. And of course, sometimes I'm hitting whole triads, which might not be exactly realistic for a clarinet section, but so let's just quickly look and see the different articulations that are available. Let's try minor chord textures. That's really nice. That's really nice. I like that a lot. How about octatonic textures? Random bends. Oh, these are cool. Very useful articulations. The one thing I am noticing that's missing, however, is legato. Would definitely like to have had legato here, but other than that, there's a lot of really cool stuff. Let's jump down to some of these atonal effects. Let's try cluster crescendo. And maybe some of the rips ascending. Looks like an octave. Oh, that's super helpful. Yeah, I like that. That's really, that kind of stuff comes in very handy. Cluster stereo waves. All right, so that's the clarinets. Let's move on to the flutes. So again, we have the long sustain, the staccato, portato, sforzato, triple P sustains. Let's see if we have essentially the same. Well, there are some different things here, like the overtone stereo waves. So let's load that. And let's load some cluster stereo waves. And why don't we try the crescendo? Let's actually go ahead and try the crescendo now. So flutes. Very subtle crescendo. I like that. Long sustain. Staccato. Portato. Let's jump over to the overtone waves. Oh, I like that overtone. Oh, you hear that? That's really nice. Cluster wave. Let's go ahead and jump down to the flutter sustain. I wonder what that is. Oh, yeah. That really adds a real sense of realism. I like that a lot. Flutter bends. Let's hear Flutes bending. Oh, that's cool. I like that a lot too. Rips. Let's try an ascending fifth. And then if we do the ascending, or let's try a descending tritone. I mean, there's a lot of, those rips are super helpful. So a descending octave. Yeah, those are helpful. So that's the flutes. Let's go ahead. I'm going to skip the high and low ensemble and come back to those at the end. Let's go ahead and look at the contrabass. So again, we have the same articulations here. We have our extended articulations. These look very, very similar. Unison bends is something I've not seen yet, so let's add that to the mix. Wide cluster, that sounds promising. And let's go ahead and add a swell. Let's start with the swell. That's some nice sounding contrabasses. I'm telling you, that's nice. How about the triple P sustain? Yeah, I like that. Just makes you want to keep playing that. I think that's my favorite so far, those contrabasses, which is no surprise to me. How about staccato? Very nice. And the sustains. I mean, that is really nice. Those contrabasses are really, really nice. Let's try the unison bends. Oh, yeah. How about the clusters? WD clusters? Wide? That's it. Wide cluster? All right, let's jump over to the high ensemble. And again, we have the same articulations, the same standard articulations, and then we can add up to 3 additional out of all of these selections. So let's do staccato waves, let's do whole tone textures, and let's try some of the atonal effects, like maybe a cluster sustain. So here's the high ensemble long sustain. And again, I'm overplaying here, but I'm playing like a piano player instead of a woodwind player. right, let's go ahead and jump over to the staccato waves. That's really nice. Yeah, I like that a lot. The whole tone chords. And the clusters. All right, and last but definitely not least, the low ensemble. The low ensemble, as it were. All right, same basic articulations. Let's just load up a few random selections here. How about a whole step trill? A stereo wave bends. Ooh, that sounds promising. And decisions. How about a nice crescendo? Let's try the trill. And the stereo bends. I gotta say, those bends are some of my favorite articulations. Those throughout the library, they have those in the sound designer. They have them here in the traditional. I mean, that's just... I mean, who doesn't want to record something with that? Let's try the triple P sustains. And how about we end with a crescendo? So that is Heavyocity Vento Modern Woodwinds. Traditional sound design elements, a little of everything. Definitely an A in my book. This fits right in with the mood and the feel of Forzo and Novo. This is definitely a welcome addition to the orchestral family and Heavyocity's line of orchestral sound design libraries. I'm definitely going to get some good use out of this, and I believe you will too. Thanks so much for checking out this video. I'd love to know what you think about this library. Is this library something that might work for your music? Comment below and share your thoughts. Please like, share, and subscribe, and be sure to visit samplelibraryreview.com for news, reviews, and our weekly deal compressor.